already Canada, and I respect very much. As you know, there's a very strong man in Canada who said he was going to charge a surcharge or a tariff on electricity coming into our country. He has called and he said he's not going to do that. Okay, he's not going to do that. And it would have been a very bad thing if he did. And he's not going to do that, so I respect that. But we were just informed that he's not going to do that.
Well, welcome back to another episode of Stand on Guard. I'm your host, David Creighton. The Doug Ford back down. Not going to do the 25% surcharge, which some people thought was a tariff, but it's not. What happened in that meeting? Well, I don't know. We'll be discussing that a bit. But my guest today, I'm very excited about this because I've wanted L1sa Robinson to be on the show for quite some time. It's just never worked out. And we're going to be talking about the problems she's had defending free speech in Pickering as a councillor. When we come back, we'll be talking.
We need political change, but we also need to resolve to resist.
Yes, as Sasha, my cat, always said, please ring the bell, like the station. We do that because when you like the station early, we beat YouTube suppression, as we subject to almost every day, but we're beating it thanks to your help. And please subscribe to the station as well. We're headed towards 50,000 subscribers. I want to make that in a month. I know we can do it together. Thank you for watching today. And L1sa will be joining me momentarily. But I just wanted to bring you up to date on a couple of things here. And please, yes, that's L1sa. Well, that's L1sa's article. CBC News did an article on L1sa. We'll be covering that in a second. This is my latest in human events. Please have a look at it. I expected this actually to be in the post-millennial. Somehow it ended up in the human events as an opinion piece. It's really more of an analysis piece, but have a read. It's Canada's Liberals are running against Donald Trump, not Pierre Poilievre. This is a surprise to a lot of Americans. This is an American publication. And believe me, we've got to get the word out. What's going on with the Liberal Party in this country? They are demonizing Donald Trump and America so they can run against Americans and the U.S. and Donald Trump and not Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives, because that's the race they think they can win against Donald Trump. So that's what's going on here. Now, what's happened between Doug Ford and Donald Trump yesterday? This is fascinating.
A while ago, I had an opportunity to speak to Secretary Lutnick. And Secretary Lutnick has sent out an olive branch to us to come down and immediately meet with him, meet with the whole trade administration, and discuss the future. Rather than waiting till April the 2nd, threats going back and forth, tit for tat, I've agreed to suspend temporarily, and we always have that tool in our toolkit, until we sit down over the next day or two. I'll be heading down to Washington along with Dominic LeBlanc, and we'll have a good discussion. You know, with any negotiation that we have, there's a point that both parties are heated and the temperature needs to come down. And I thought this was the right decision. They understand how serious we are about the electricity and the tariffs. And rather than going back and forth and having threats to each other, we have both agreed, let cooler heads prevail. We need to sit down and move this forward. This is a massive, massive deal, the USMCA. Which the federal government will be leading the charge. I'll be sitting down with all our premiers tomorrow as well and discussing this and their issues as well. So we're going to go down there and we're going to go down there with confidence. We're going to go down there with strength. And again, hopefully we can move this forward. I feel as a province, and I only speak for the province of Ontario, I want to reaffirm I do not speak for any other premiers. Everyone's very patriotic, and we have the best premiers I've ever seen. But we're going to be talking about the USMCA moving forward. The worst thing that could happen is wait and let this drag out until April the 2nd. So we're going to move forward and have a very good conversation with Secretary Lutnick and the whole trade team, as he said, and hopefully we can move this forward, because it doesn't benefit anyone, as I told him, no matter if it's the auto sector or any other sector here in Canada, and specifically Ontario. And all I mentioned, assembly lines will shut down in the US and Canada. The stock market is tumbling over $4 trillion. Consumer confidence has went down. I said it's absolute chaos out there right now. We need to move forward jointly. I emphasized how Canadians love Americans, and I know Americans love Canadians, but going back and forth with each other, it just hurts both countries. So I want to thank Secretary Lutnick for reaching out, putting that olive branch, and I've been in business a number of years, a lot of negotiations, and part of the last negotiation, when someone does that, you have to respect that person for putting out that olive branch, and I'm going to make sure we go down there and have a very good but strong and confident conversation.
Well, I've never seen Doug Ford look so humbled. Well, it must have been quite a conversation. All right, without further ado, I want to welcome Lisa Robinson to the show. Thank you for coming on, Lisa, and it's a pleasure to see you again. As I mentioned to you before the show started, I haven't seen you or spoken to you since, I think it was late November 2023 in Ottawa. You spoke at an event here with Christine Anderson, who was the guest of honor, and I met you on that occasion, and you spoke quite eloquently about all of the problems you'd already had in Pickering as a city councillor, and that was only a year. You were first elected in 2022, and it's been nothing but problems with, I think, which must be the most woke council in Ontario, if not the country. It's been nothing but problems with this council and with Mayor Kevin Ash. So I show this, I briefly showed this article here. CBC reported last September you're under a 90-day suspension of pay. Now, is this still the case? Are you still suspended without pay?
I am. My pay has now been suspended up to 9 months already. 9 months without pay. I've been working for the people now, and it looks like that there's going to be some more suspensions coming down the pipeline too. I think that what they're trying to do is, I mean, obviously they're trying to get me out of office, but they don't realize that suspending my pay is not going to do it. So they're just going to keep on trying to suspend my pay for the rest of my term.
They keep charging you with this vague weasel word phrase, unacceptable behavior. What are they talking about? What is unacceptable about your behavior?
Just anything that they don't like, anything that I say. I'll give you a couple of examples. I had said about 9 months ago on another podcast, I said, if I was to be mayor, I would use the strong mayor's powers for good. I would go into City Hall. I would get rid of the city solicitor, the CAO, and a bunch of the directors, because corruption starts at the top. I would tear down City Hall and build it back up from the bottom and give it back to the people. Well, that warranted a 3-month suspension of pay. So almost $18,000 for that. Absolutely insane. They tried to bring me up on criminal charges because in November, one of my favorite movies is V for Vendetta, with Guy Fawkes. And I don't know if you're all aware of that poem, which is remember the 5th of November, the gunpowder treason and plot. I see no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. And they tried to bring me up on criminal charges for posting that as if I was going to go blow up Parliament or something stupid like that. Absolutely insane. Meanwhile, we have the Guy Fawkes. We have that whole entire plot from the 1600s in our libraries, in children's books. And they wanted to suspend my pay for that as well.
Wow. Now the city
It's just
or
everything
the
and
mayor
anything,
or
everything and everything that I say, they just go after me for.
so this is a free speech issue that you have been canceled for saying things that this mayor and this council are not comfortable with.
Yes, it's not only what I say, it's emotions that I try and bring forward as well, right, for my constituents. And so, because I want to bring motions forward that my constituents ask me to, they don't like them. And then they start labeling me as being racist, transphobic, homophobic, I'm a Nazi. I'm everything, and not realizing that, this is my job, is to work for the people. And that's what I'm trying to do.
Now this Pickering, and I'm assuming they do. They celebrate Pride Day, month, season, all of the above.
Oh yes, they actually brought a motion forward that means that I'm saying that we have to support it. We have to support Pride Month. Yeah, they actually brought a motion which compels council to accept that, including myself.
So you have so to object to that then is just an anathema to the mayor and the council. And can they discipline you for not embracing Pride Day, Pride Month?
Yes, absolutely. That's what they do. And even though, they should not have any kind of moral authority over me, but they seem to claim that they do. My council and the mayor seem to think that right now they're not really taking care of the residents of Pickering. I think they care more about what I'm doing and what I'm saying and trying ways to control me instead of actually doing their jobs. It seems that I'm more important right now than the actual constituents here in the city of Pickering.
Now the mayor or the city of Pickering has actually appealed to the provincial government to expand their powers so they can remove you as a city councilor. Right now, I don't think the province has given them that authority. So all they can do is continue to issue these pay suspensions. So the latest one is what, 90 days or longer than that?
Yeah, the last one, Will, has been 90 days. And yes, you are correct with the they're pretty much lobbying the provincial government, and the city of Pickering is really moving this movement, is leading this movement on lobbying the provincial government to change the Municipals Act. Because right now, under the Municipals Act, the only way really for discipline of a councillor is to take away their pay up to 90 days, but it has to be egregious. And nothing that I have done has been egregious. So because of that, they're now lobbying the government to change the Municipal Act, letting them remove an elected member basically at their whim, but it would have to go to a judiciary. But the provincial government is saying, well, it's not really that bad if we implement this, because the whole entire council would have to be in agreement. Well, we've already proven that my council alone, because there's only 7 of us in total, the 6 of them against me, that they would be in agreement of having me removed. And not only that, it's not only the fact that they would be able to remove an elected official whom, that is the people's right to do, because that's why we have elections, but they also want to put a clause in there that it would also stop that ejected person from running in the subsequent election. So, you could really, really look at this as a way of election tampering, as a way to, get rid of your opponent if you were all in agreement of doing so. It's very undemocratic.
No,
It's
extremely.
authoritarian. Yes.
Well, can you give an example of the kind of concerns that your constituents are raising that the mayor and the council simply refuse to listen to and are labeling homophobic or transphobic or any of these other buzzwords?
Sure. Well, the first 3 motions that I tried bringing forward, I was bringing forward at the same time. The first one had to do with flags. So based on the 2015 Supreme Court law decision, that we should be remaining in a state of neutrality, I thought it'd be best, also based on other municipalities and another town that just had put through a motion that only governmental flags should be flown on governmental buildings. Well, because I wanted to put that motion through, all of a sudden they lied on their Integrity Commission report and said that, I just wanted to get rid of the pride flag and the trans flag, which had nothing to do with it. I had said all flags, but inclusive of the veterans and the poppy flag. So because of that, I was labeled transphobic and homophobic. Another motion I was trying to put through was that our recreation center here in Pickering, before COVID, we used to have like, your male washroom, your female washroom, and a family washroom. During COVID, they redid them. So now our all-female washroom, you have to be a member and you have to be over the age of 18 in order to use it. They redid the males that you could only use the male change room washroom if you were over the age of 18 and if you're a member. And now if you are a member under the age of 18 or anyone else, no matter how old you are, but you're a non-member, you're now being forced to use the universal change room. So I had a lot of complaints from constituents because nobody wants to see, men and women like little girls and that changing together. So I was trying to bring forward a motion that, all men, women, boys, and girls have the right to choose between using a biological bathroom or to use the universal change room, which would be inclusive of all genders and or families. And again, I'm transphobic and homophobic. And then they also lied on the Integrity Commissioner report saying that I wanted to get rid of the universal change room, which was a complete and outright lie because, myself as a single mom, I needed family change rooms, right? Because I have a little boy. So, I completely am in agreement, but I think that everyone should have the choice to, if a girl wants to go where there's girls only, she should have that right. The next one I tried to bring forward at that same time was to do with the Pride events and with Drag Queen Storytime. And I was trying to put an age restriction on those events. And my age restriction was 18 years. You had to be in order to participate because we've all seen how lewd these events can be. And I had chosen the year of 18 because I was hoping maybe we would actually have a debate about this and we could drop the age down to 15 or 16 when, there's really not so much pressure on the children. But unfortunately, again, because of that, I'm transphobic and I am homophobic. So that's how all of this started, was with those motions I wanted to bring forward.
Well, it sounds totally commonsensical to me that maybe we shouldn't be sexualizing children. And of course, that's the basis of all of this legislation, is to sexualize children. And anyone who protests or disagrees and thinks that's maybe inappropriate gets a label and gets canceled or dismissed. And just a thought here, because this is, of course, all about censorship. And if there's anything good about Trudeau being allowed to prorogue Parliament, of course, last week a judge ruled that he was in his right to prorogue Parliament. I objected to that. I did not think that was a good thing. But the only good thing that's coming out of that, of course, is that the Online Harms Act, which I'm sure you're very well aware of,
Yes,
has been derailed. And it's got to start all over again. And I don't think it's going to happen now. Thank God. It was the most toxic piece of legislation in the House of Commons. I have been fighting it from day one. I don't think there's a week goes by I don't mention the fact that we need to kill this bill. It looks like it's gone. But it strikes me, Lisa, that if we're surprised that the federal government thinks it can get away with an online harms bill that's going to target thought crimes, and people thought I was kidding when I'd say, yeah, it talks about thought crimes, locking you in your house if your neighbor thinks you might say something wrong, and it's entirely relevant to you, of course, that they would have used this against you. But if we're surprised the federal government is up to this kind of nonsense, just look at municipal governments. Start at Pickering. Look at the behavior there. Look what they're doing to you. Is this mayor and council truly reflective of Pickering? Is that community gone crazy? Or are these people completely out of whack with their constituents?
I think the latter of the two is correct. And yes, the thought crime has already come to our council as well, to our CAO anyways. And I'm saying that because I do a lot of YouTube videos where I talk about what's happening in council, all the draconian measures that are setting in place, all the authoritarianism that is happening and whatnot. And I do a lot of videos from my corner office at City Hall. Well, the CAO has now told me that if I do any more videos from my office, she's going to bar me from my office because she feels that, I'm going to break the code of conduct, which is, of course, very, very vague. So basically, anything that I say that she doesn't like, including this conversation right now, she could actually bar me from attending my own office at City Hall.
That is an incredible example because that's exactly what the Justice Minister Varani was talking about. If somebody down the street thinks that I might be up to something, thinks I might be about to say something, then he or she can have me confined to my house and silenced and gagged. And that's exactly what the council is doing to you. That's incredible. That's what that city of Pickering is doing to you. Perfect example.
Yeah, and I actually have another example as well, is that I was doing my town hall meetings, right? So of course, we get a budget to do our town halls, and I can do them on city property and whatnot, in our libraries or in our meeting rooms and whatnot. And they've actually pulled my budget, and I'm not allowed to do my city halls, my town halls, on city property and use my budget for them because they didn't like the people that were coming out to my town halls, which are regular people from the city of Pickering who don't agree with the egregious behaviors of our council and what they're doing. But of course, they all got labeled as being alt-right or racist and, all the words, the word of the day is what they do. And so they've actually pulled my budget. So now if I want to meet with my constituents, I have to do it on my own dime, let's say. And of course, I have no income coming in, right? So they're really trying to stop me from meeting with my public. And I think it's because I do have quite the following here. I do have a few people that are constantly attacking me on a vile Facebook group called Pickering Talk. And it's really, really vile there. All that, basically that whole entire group there is just to attack me and everything that I say and do. But there's only about 12 people on there, and half of them are fake Facebook accounts because they're too afraid, I guess, to say who they really are. But I do believe that a couple of those fake accounts are either members of council or they are members of staff at the city of Pickering doing everything that they can to stop me and try and ruin my name and drag my name through the mud. But people are seeing through what's happening for sure.
And you're a single mom, and obviously this is not helping you pay the bills, but the city doesn't care. This is not an issue because you're the enemy and you invite the wrong kind of people.
Yeah. They set up a gift. A friend of mine set up a gift send go for me to help me with the bills and paying for legal bills and that, right? Because I am taking them for a judicial review and whatnot. And, they complain about that because I'm not learning my lesson, right? Meanwhile, so they would rather see me lose my house, not be able to feed my child. And that's a mentality that they are. I myself wouldn't even do that to my worst enemy. I would never take away the means for somebody to be able to provide for their family or keep a roof over their head or pay their bills, no matter how much I disliked them or had disdain for them or anything else like that. Or if they were speaking out because they didn't like what they were saying, because that's what it comes down to. They don't like me talking about the corruption that's happening in City Hall. They don't like me talking about extortion, the collusion. And so because of that, they just keep on taking away my pay. It's absolutely and utterly disgusting. And I can't believe that we have people who are actually running our city that people are supposed to aspire and look up to, and they behave like this. It's wrong, and it is literally disgusting. They're very evil people, in my opinion.
That was my next question. Actually, you do have a Give, Send, Go fund going. We will have that. Please provide that information to me, and I'll put it in the description of this video because I want people to support you because you're a freedom fighter and you're out there doing what needs to be done courageously. And a lot of people can talk the talk, but walking the walk is what you're doing, because you're getting penalized for it, and you're putting your life on the line for this and your livelihood on the line. So I congratulate you for that. I'm not done, but the council doesn't even meet in public anymore, does it? They're all online because they're afraid of being put in danger.
Yeah. Okay, that in itself is really, really laughable. And I mean, let's just start out, because they're going to come after me for this. Is like, I do not condone violence, and if somebody has a legitimate fear, then you know what, they have every right to feel that way. But in saying that, we've had a lot of draconian measures come down the pipeline at the city of Pickering. And I'll just tell you what they are before I go into this whole entire fear mongering, if you will. I wrote a couple of them down, so I didn't try not to leave anything out. But within our council, over the last year and a half, we brought in a lot of authoritarian draconian measures in place. And a few of them are, we have dropped our delegation times from 10 minutes to 5 minutes. So that means the people can only speak for half of the time if they want to say anything in front of council in our open forum. They removed question and answer period. So you can't ask any questions of the mayor or anybody else. Only Pickering residents are now allowed to speak, basically, at our council chambers, even though, 4 of our members are also part of Durham Region. They sit on the board of Durham Region, but they don't want them to have a say. Our Pickering residents also, before you could speak to anything that wasn't on the agenda, as long as you give 10 days notice. Now, if you want to speak to anything that's not on the agenda, they have to approve what it is that you're going to talk about. So if you want me to say something like, to really dumb this down for anybody, is that, let's say you wanted to come and you wanted to talk about bringing in a cat park into the city of Pickering, but we all like dogs that are sitting up there, the 7 of us. You have to get a mover, a seconder, and then they have to vote, and 2/3 of our council have to vote to let you come speak about cats. So you can imagine how that's going to go if we're all dog lovers. That's not going to happen. There's no more recording or filming in our council chambers in a public space. So before, you could come in with your cell phones, take pictures, record, do whatever you want. And I and a team of myself that works with me, that we have found time jumps in, the YouTube videos that have been posted from the city of Pickering. We have found white noise, and we have found a manipulation of the sound. So is that why they don't want us recording? I don't know. There's also the media. The media is no longer allowed to stay and record our meetings as well, unless, of course, there's a 2/3 votes on that as well. We're not allowed to put articles, paid advertising in newspapers anymore, unless the newspaper has been approved by the CAO. So, for example, we do have a great newspaper here. Well, we had a couple of them, but most of them have closed down. But we still have one. It's called The Central, which I do an opinion piece in every week. Well, because they don't like the opinion pieces that I put in, because I'm always talking about the draconian measures such as these, I'm not allowed to pay for advertising in that paper anymore. Even like advertising, like saying, welcome back to school, everybody, and thank the crossing guards or the community, watch out for children. I can't even do anything like that in there in a newspaper, because they don't like that newspaper. And that's pretty sad, because I'm not allowed now to voice where I want to voice my opinion. But I would be able to put a newspaper article in, let's say, the Toronto Star, which, remember during COVID on the front page, they were wishing that anyone who was unvaxxed, that they would die. They would openly say that, but that's okay to put it in that newspaper. I've talked about the removal of my office and my budget. Also, now when we want to bring motions, they want us to send them to staff first and make sure that it's okay with staff, which is, that's not right, because who works for who here, right? Staff is supposed to be working for us. It's not supposed the other way around, but in the city of Pickering, it sure seems like, we're working for the staff, and we're basically just the faces of Pickering, let's say. There's also, any questions that we want to ask. So at our council meetings, I like to ask a lot of questions. And the staff doesn't like that because I catch them in an awful lot of lies. And I'm sorry for my cat here. He's a strange
No problem.
I like to ask a lot of questions, and I do catch staff lying about that. And just as recently as last month, which of course, they've already told me they're going to bring an integrity commissioner report against that, but you'll see it in my YouTube videos, the lies right then and there. And so they don't like that. So now when I try and ask a question, they say, oh, you've had ample time. You should have asked that to staff prior to coming to the council meeting, which is, completely untrue as well, because when we have our council meetings, we don't get our agenda until the Thursday before the Monday. And I don't like to look at it online. I like to have pieces of paper in front of me. So I don't get my agenda until late Friday, late afternoon, early evening. And by the time I get it, it could be 300 pages long. So I got to spend the whole weekend reading it. And then I have questions. Well, you can't reach staff over the weekend. And come the Monday morning, we have council meeting that night. So it makes it virtually impossible to ask the questions. Not to mention, I think that people want to know about the questions that I ask. They want to know, why is this money being spent? Why are we spending so much money on consultants? Why are we doing this? Why are we taking it from this account when it should be coming from this account? Like, all legitimate questions. Why are we following the UN agenda? And, they don't like me asking these questions in front of the people. So they're stopping me now from doing that as well. So now to go into the online meetings of what you're talking about, fear. Yes, because of me being so vocal, and because of all those draconian measures that I just listed, and I'm sure I have missed a couple, people are showing up at our meetings, or they're talking about it on social media. And they don't like people coming into our chambers and saying, we feel that you are acting like a dictator, Mr. Mayor. And because of that, they're all now fearful. And so they wanted to go online. But here's the thing, is that if they were really fearful, would they be inviting their families, their wives, their children, their 8-year-old grandchildren to our council meetings if they were so fearful? Would they be still showing up at events like, store openings, ribbon cuttings, like, other events that we have where we have zero police presence? Would they be showing up for those if they were so fearful? No. The real reason behind all of this, in my opinion, is because we are actually going to be redoing our council chambers, which I could go off on another tyrant about because it's going to look more like a courtroom setting. It won't have all the councillors up there that you look at. It will now have just the mayor and 2 unelected people next to him, the CAO and the city clerk. And you won't even be able to look at the councillors in the face. And it will actually have like the bar basically across that, you can't cross when you go into a courtroom. But see, I went off on that and now I just forgot what I was saying. Right? But so because we're redoing our chambers, and it's going to start happening late spring or beginning of summer, we were already going to be going to online anyways. And they know that they were going to get a lot of pushback from that, because we could have done our meetings over at the recreation center in one of the rooms, which would be big enough to house people if they wanted to come to our chambers, right? I mean, just like, Parliament did in Ottawa, you have West Block, right? Well, they're redoing the actual Parliament buildings, right? We could have done something like that, but no.
Yeah.
So they're basically just using this. But I think they're also using this whole entire fear mongering about going online is because they also want to push that narrative to the Municipal Act to have it changed to be able to remove an elected official. And on top of that, I'll say one more thing about that, is that for the month of March, which is what we're in right now, we have no staff coming to our meetings, to our executive meeting, to our planning and development meeting, or anything. And again, and they're saying this because, and I'll have to read this, but they sent out a memo. And the memo that they said, the reason why they don't want to have staff showing up at our March meetings is because the last meeting that we had, I called out staff for lying right there on the spot. And I wanted to bring forward, I said I wanted to bring forward a notice of motion, which would have been that we need stricter penalties for any employee, any committee member or contractor doing the work for the city of Pickering who has deliberately provided false or misleading information to the public or council. And so I wanted to bring strict penalties up to and including termination. And they didn't like that statement for that notice of motion that I would like to bring forward to stop people from lying to the public and to, us as council. And they didn't like that. So they sent out a memo saying that they're not going to have staff attend meetings for this whole entire month because they are sending a strong message to Councillor Robinson that all employees deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. And, I agree, all employees do have to be treated with dignity and respect. But, I think also council should be thinking shouldn't the city be focusing on sending a strong message to those city directors and staff that the residents of Pickering and beyond deserve to also be treated with dignity and respect. And they deserve to be told the truth rather than the lies and the deception. So because I said that, we don't have any staff at our meetings now, so I can even ask any questions at our meeting the other day.
Well, it sounds like you're in Pickering, North Korea, not Pickering, Ontario. This is just beyond the pale. I just want to briefly touch on federal politics with you because Mark Carney, of course, was coronated on Sunday night with 86% of the vote. As a lot of people have said, it's statistically almost impossible to win every riding in the country. 2/3 of Liberal members couldn't even vote because they were disqualified, and the Liberal Party won't explain why. How do these people get disqualified? Why? So 150,000 people have proclaimed a new prime minister. And I found this fascinating. We learned this week that Marco Mendicino, the former public safety minister who invoked the Emergencies Act along with Justin Trudeau, is going to be Carney's chief of staff. And a couple of my friends, Daisy Media, found Marco Mendicino yesterday and asked him about it.
You made about using a tank on Canadian citizens. How are you? Hey. During the Freedom Convoy, you mentioned using a tank on Canadian citizens. Was that a joke? Or?
Hello. How are you?
Wasn't a joke. Was a joke. No. Election anytime soon? Anything?
We'll see.
Give me something, man. These guys.
Yeah, thanks to Daisy Media for that. That is, of course, just an incredible revelation of what Mark Carney has in store for us. He's already talked about using the emergency powers of the federal government. He was in Kelowna, BC a couple of weeks back, and he said he would use the emergency powers of the federal government to push his agenda. So do you think we're going to get anything different with Mark Carney than we've had with Justin Trudeau, Lisa?
No, I think it could actually be worse. If it can actually get any worse, I think it's going to get worse. I mean, you got to look at Carney. I mean, he hasn't even lived in Canada. He has 3 different passports. He is Chrystia Freeland's son's godfather. And we know what Chrystia Freeland is like, right? I mean, that's absolutely insane. And, he's not even an established political figure. And he hasn't even been in Canada. I don't know how he possibly would have got the votes because most people don't even know who he is. He's a no-namer, right?
Yeah.
To the people of Canada. Anyway, so for him to get that many votes, and there's something really, really funny going on there. I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that there's something shady going on. Honestly.
Well, I like to say he's got the personality of a reptile. His public speaking capability is horrible. He's not in the least bit engaging, but apparently the Liberals love him, and we have to believe that. But listen to Doug Ford, and I have to confess, I had a hard time with this provincial election because I'm fed up with Doug Ford pretending to be a conservative, which he's not, but I'm sure as hell not going to invite the Liberals or the NDP to form government. So I didn't even want to talk about the provincial election because it made me nauseous. But here's Doug Ford yesterday talking about Mark Carney. And of course, Doug Ford was another so-called conservative who backed Justin Trudeau with the Emergencies Act invocation. And here he is giving his thumbs up to Mark Carney.
Going through a transition in leadership as well. You're about to have a new prime minister, Mark Carney. Yes. Have you spoken to him since he won? And where do you expect him to take this fight?
Well, I spoke to him yesterday. He's a very bright individual. He understands finances like no other person. And we need to sit down, which we will tomorrow. We're going to have breakfast tomorrow morning, and we'll have a strong strategy.
Yeah, he understands finances like no other person. In fact, he understands finances so well, he doesn't think people use steel anymore, because he was interviewed in Atlantic I think it was CTV, and he was asked about, well, is it going to be a problem with tariffs on steel? And he said, who uses steel anymore? And I looked around, I said, well, I've got steel in my refrigerator, my stove, my car, dishwasher. Obviously, Mark Carney's not living in the same world as I am, but I agree with you, Lisa. I think it's going to get worse if this guy stays in power. I think the only silver lining here is that the longer he stays around as a potential long-term prime minister, the more people are going to say, I don't want to vote for this man. So I don't think he's going to win the next federal election. And I think the federal election will probably be called sooner rather than later, because Mark Carney can't gamble that the so-called goodwill he's enjoying right now. And the polls seem to be reflecting some miracle for the Liberal Party. But I don't think that's going to last the longer he stays around and opens his mouth and says some of the incredibly stupid things he does say, because he's really a one-trick pony. He's got about 5 different lines that he likes to use, and he says them over and over again. And people have already begun to notice that he's repetitive. And he's got one speech. He used his victory speech was almost identical to speeches he's used across the country at little coffee shop appearances he's made in Ontario and Alberta and BC and all across the country. So I don't really think he's got a large political lifespan. But do you think we're going to see a federal election in the next couple of months?
Well, he would be smart to do that. If yes, he would be smart to call an election, and I mean that is the rumor. And it's a shame that Canadians keep on falling for this, because it really is just a hydra with 3 different heads. We have our top 3 parties, and everybody votes, but you know what? They vote for the lesser of the 3 evils, let's say. And that really is a shame. We do need to get people thinking, you have to really vote for somebody who's really going to start making change. People that stand up, anybody who's been standing up over the past 5 years, that's who you need to get behind. And, forget about going for the political party and think that, you're going to split votes if you vote for somebody different. And, Canadians have to get rid of that train of thought, because once you do that, we could actually start, making Canada great again, for a lack of a better phrase, I guess, at this time. But, that's something that needs to be done. Doug Ford, unfortunately, he flip-flops as much as Aaron O'Toole did. They're not true conservatives anymore. Where have they been? Why are they not standing up for the women's and children's rights? They haven't been. They've just been following along with the Liberals. And that's sad. And I mean, the Liberals used to be amazing. I would have thought that I was liberal when I was growing up, taking care of your neighbors and whatnot. They used to be really, really good back then. And then all of a sudden they just started with all these draconian measures and becoming, in my opinion, for the most part, the leaders are pretty evil, as we've seen underneath Justin Trudeau. And then you have everybody complaining about, this big bad orange guy Trump, as they like to call him. But they're not even looking at what has our own government done to us over the past 9 years. Our inflation rates are up. They keep on bringing more taxes on us. Like, I mean, we're being taxed to death. Everybody's being taxed to death. Our food prices are increased. People can't even afford to put healthy food on the tables for their children. Gas prices are out of control. And I mean, our barrel could be the same price it was 15 years ago, but why aren't the prices going back down? Because of the greed in the country, because of the monopoly that they've created. And so they don't care about the people here. And Mark Carney's not going to be any different than that. I mean, Doug Ford showed that he was all for the Liberals, like, when he flip-flopped about the whole entire vaccine passports a few short years ago. So, I mean, we see how this is going. Even my own Mayor Ash, he claims to be a conservative. He's not a conservative. I'm the only conservative that sits at the city of Pickering. The rest of them are, I don't even know what they are anymore. I mean, they like to call me far right, which I'm not. I am just a true conservative. And so, if they want to call me that, then, I should be able to call them far left, but I don't call them names like that or anything. But we need to put a stop to this, because
We do.
I mean, Canada is in a horrible position the way that it is right now, and it is spiraling in a downward motion very, very fast. It's like that snowball is already hitting, halfway down the hill, and it's almost impossible to stop. We need a lot of people, bulldozers in front of it, to stop this from happening at this point.
Oh, amen to that. So people, support Lisa Robinson. Her information it will be in the description. She has a Give, Send, Go account out there. The city of Pickering is not paying her. It's outright discrimination as far as I'm concerned. It's outrageous, but we need to step forward and help Lisa out as much as we can. So thanks for appearing on the show today, Lisa. Stay in touch. Let me know if there's any other developments, and we'll have you back anytime you want to come on this show and talk about things. It's been a pleasure, and let's stay in touch.
Thank you so much for having me on your show, and thank you to everybody there that's watching, and keep up the fight. And remember, I mean, each of us have a voice, and you just have to use it. Stand strong, and God bless everybody.
Thank you again, Lisa, and we'll be in touch. Yes, that was Lisa Robinson, a councillor from Pickering, and you know her. She has made tremendous stance for free speech. And the council and the mayor and the city have tried to cancel her, but she's not being canceled. So thanks for watching today. I'll be back with a few concluding remarks after this brief message from our store. Thanks for watching today, folks. I'll be back again tomorrow with Ezra Levant. The show will be at 11, not 10, to accommodate Ezra's schedule. I've known Ezra for many, many years. He is a pioneer journalist. He was out there setting the standards for conservative journalism long before anybody else in terms of developing conservative journalism for the mainstream audience. And he started with the Western Standard as a magazine. He's doing it with Rebel News today. He does what he does extremely well. We're going to be talking about how small C conservative newscasters need to respond to the current crisis, the trade war crisis, the tariff crisis, and what's happening to the Conservative Party of Canada. Thanks. Join me tomorrow, 11 o'clock. This is Stand on Guard. Keep fighting, keep resolving to resist, and we'll be back again tomorrow with an exciting interview. Thank you.